So when I have a look at my thesis, I can see that the setting out might not be exactly as I want and things are looking pretty scrappy. I go along, which is normal, very, very normal. I go to the right-hand side of my screen and I find the, get my spotlight, I find that there's a dialog box launcher, which is a very small down pointing arrow. I've got one theory about things in Microsoft. If they're important, they're tiny. That's my theory, I tell you. So this tiny little button's what I click on, and I see all these styles appear here. I don't want those styles because I don't even know what half of them are there for. What is this H major? What is H minor? You know, it's a mess. So at the bottom, I don't go to new style yet. I don't worry about style inspector. And I see here that there's a button called Manage Styles. So I click on Manage Styles, and I'll put that in a drawer. I click on Manage Styles, and I'll notice that I can see it says Edit at the top there, and I can see a whole lot of styles here. They're grey as, but I'm not interested in that area at all. I may have a look at Recommend, and these are all the styles that I've got in there, and it looks very complicated. Here they've got something called Large Text BTN. What is that? So my most important thing now is to bring my actual template into here, you see. So I click on Import Export. And when I do that, in this dialog box here, I can see all the styles in this particular chapter that I'm looking at, which says Chapter 1 Wrong Styles. I've deliberately done that to make it all wonky, you know. So here are all the wrong styles. What do I want to do with them? I want to delete them. Okay, so let's click on the first one and scroll down, hold down Shift and click on the last one. So it's click, hold down Shift, click will always select a batch of items, whether they are files, whether it's paragraphs, whether it's a whole bunch of sentences, anything. Click, Shift, click always selects a block of text. So what I'm going to do with that now is click on Delete, you see, and it says, do you want to delete everything? And I go, yes, please. And I keep going. Okay, until it stops. Because I built in styles, it says you can't delete. Go fine. But now I don't want to bring in the styles from my normal template. I want to bring in the styles from the template that I've downloaded. So I close this file, which is the normal .template, and I go along to open file and it asks me which file I want. So I suitably go up to where I saved it, which in this case I'm going to go to, no I'm not, I'm going to go to computing, and in computing I'm going to go to my division of research where I hunt for everything. I go to thesis templates. I'm going to pick on Arial this morning just because I can, and I will, and I see nothing. The problem is that it says at the bottom here, all Word templates. Well, all Word templates do not end in DOCX, they end in DOT, something or other, various things, X, M, and so on. So I want to see all Word documents. So I change my file type to all Word documents. Now I look at my different templates here. There's APA chapters numbered. Here's APA Arial no numbering. Here is APA Arial numbered. So the chapters is the one I want, say for example, in APA. So I double click on that and all the styles will drop down into that box. So I remove the styles I don't want from the actual document I have already, and I go and fetch the template. I close the template they offer me. I go and fetch another template, and now I can see all the styles from that template. Click on the first one, go all the way down, hold down my friendly Shift key, click on the last one, and go copy across. It says, everything, please. Now it's pushed all those styles over into this side. I've imported them. And when I close that, you can see a huge change in my style template. Okay, everything has changed here. So there you can see chapter 1. It's just put it in, and the reason why it's grey is because it's embedded in the numbering style. Why would I want to do that specifically? Well, in a moment, I'm going to create a caption. And unless you've got chapter 1, you can't include the chapter number in your caption. So if you want your captions to read figure 1.1, figure 1.2, figure 1.3, and then in chapter 2 to read figure 2.1, figure 2.3, you have to do this. All right. You can also now see that in the privacy of your own home has automatically, you may have clicked heading 2 previously when you were working on it. It says, no, this is the new heading 2, and it puts it in for you. Here is my normal template, which is very good. So how do I see what's inside these styles? Each style is a setting out for paragraph, you see, whether it's font and paragraph or font or paragraph, it's a setting out for that. When I hover the mouse over it, you can see the style is showing up there. But let me go to heading 2 and click on the down arrow, and for what the heck, I'm going to click on modify. I don't want to modify it, I want to see what's inside it. And if I look at this little area here, I can see my left indenting is flush against the left margin, 0 indenting. My font is 14 points. And I've got a hanging indent. Well, it does that by default, okay? And then my paragraph spacing is 12 points after. I'll explain that to you in a second. There's no page break before this heading. Okay, so in other words, it's going to continue on the same page. I have it as a level 2, which is normal, second heading, and it shows in the styles gallery. That means it's showing up here. Okay, here it is here. What else has it got? That's based on heading 1. Why? Because if I change heading 1, that filters all the way down to my other headings. So if I make heading 1 Arial, they all become Arial. If I change heading 1 to pink, they all become pink. Following the style is normal. You can see that here. That means when I tap enter after that heading, I'm going to have my computer ready, set, go for me to simply type a paragraph. Okay, so those are all the features there. Now I'm going to come to this that says no page break before. Why have I got that in there? You know, it's a habit of us to go Control Enter to apply a new page. Well, that can sometimes get a bit smudgy, you know what I mean? And it puts an extra enter at the top of a page and it gets very untidy. So what I do is, in my chapter 1 and my heading 1, when I look at the modification of it, you can see that it says here that it's got a page break before. I embed the page break in there. I don't have to put it in. So every time I apply heading 1, click, it goes to a page break. Okay, so how did I do all this? I go to format down the bottom here. I can do some changes in this area. It's very convenient to change your fonts, put in your bold, put in your color, line spacing, and alignment. That's not a problem here at all. Paragraph spacing is a bit of a problem here, and this actual indenting is useful. So the paragraph spacing is the only one I'd move away from, and I'm coming to that in a second. So in format, I also have all these options, you see. So I'm going to go to paragraph changes, and I'm looking from the top down. You can see that my alignment is to the left. You're going to see that the outline level is level 1, which is suitable. Indentation right up against the left margin. Right indentation means it's not going to flow over and go zooting out into the ether or be nudged in. If I put in a right indent of 5 centimeters, it's not going to stop at that point. I leave that dead alone. Hanging is normal because I've got numbering that I've put in there. And my spacing before and after is set to 0 and 18. Now, that is the spacing between paragraphs, not inside paragraphs. That's line spacing. And for every heading, people, I always use single because I know what I'm working with. So here I've selected that my spacing before my heading 1 will be 0. That means it'll come right up against the top margin. But my spacing between my heading and my following paragraph is going to be 18 points high. Well, how high is that? every line is 12 points high. There's history, a lot of history, and we don't have time for that. But it's a very old typographical measurement, and we call it 12 points. Now, every line is 12 points high. So if you have 1.5 line spacing, you've got 12 points height for your text and 6 points high for the spacing after, because it's half. So if you've got double line spacing, it's 12 points high for your text, 12 points high for your gap, you see, between the lines. So if you have single line spacing, you have 12 points for your text and 0 spacing between that and your next line of text. So when I want that gap between my paragraphs, I'm going to make it the height of 1.5 lines, 18 points. This just happens to be for a heading. So that's why I choose 18 points. Why aren't you just going to tap an extra enter? Because you can manipulate this. You can make this 17 points. You can make it 3 points. Like when you're working in a table and you're putting in table text, you can select the text the shorthand version is to make it 3 at the above, 3 at the bottom. Oh, and it looks really nice. Now, this 18 points has been set. Always untick this area that says don't add space between styles. The only time that should be ticked is in lists of bullets and lists of numbering. Right, so here my line spacing is single, so I click on OK. I'm very happy with that. Or if you don't want to touch it, just go cancel. And here's a sample of what it's going to look like. And something else I want to show you in paragraph. Sorry, I closed it too quickly. I now go to this side and I click on this tab that says line and page breaks. And in there I notice, wait, they've all been ticked. Very good. I do want widow and orphan control. Widow and orphan control prevents you from having a whole paragraph except one line appearing on the next page all by its little lonely self, or one line appearing on this page and the rest of the paragraph there. So widow and orphan says, I'm going to catch those two together so that they're never lonely, and you'll always have 2 lines at least on that page, or it ending with 2 lines on the next one. So that's widow and orphan. Keep with next means that heading 1 will always cling to the next paragraph. It'll never separate from the next paragraph. The advantage of that is that you don't have chapter 1 on this page. If it's at the end, I'm using chapter 1, which is a bad example, and then the rest of the document appears on that page. So my headings stick to the paragraph that follows them so that they are together. Keep lines together. Well, you don't want your heading or your paragraph, in this case, being split onto 2 pages. So I say keep lines together. Don't do that to your paragraphs. Otherwise, it'll try and fit the entire thesis on 1 page. All right. Now there I've got page break before, you see, which means that every time I apply heading 1, it's automatically going to put it on a new page by itself. The last time I ever have to worry about that. Click on OK, and that's chapter 1. So this is why when I do heading 2, I make sure when I modify it and I go into paragraph that it has all 3 settings the same, except it doesn't have page break before, because I don't want heading 2 to fall onto the next page. So I set that for that style, set it like that for that style. Now I'm on my way. I click in here. I make sure that that's the normal style. Sure is. This is also the normal style. Very good. Now, here I have an image. One of the biggest problems with images is that they like to settle on the left-hand side of the screen, of the paper. Why not? When I click on the image, I notice that this little area livens up, which is saying, how do you want to align your image? So the first thing I'm going to do is say, I want it to line up like text. I want it to be on a line by itself, and I want it to pretend that it's actually text. Some people try and line that up within the document. It doesn't always look good, you know. It's got its place, certainly, but with a thesis, I wouldn't do that. So you make sure that it's in line with text. What now? How am I going to put that in the middle? By clicking on here? Nope. That area is untouchable now. I go and I have a look in my actual styles and I see, wow, there's one that says my image. I click on that and it'll put the image in the middle. It has paragraph spacing above and below. So guess what? All my images look the same. I am going to have a look at what that style gives me. It says that it's got 18 points before, so it's got a bit of white space there. And you may say, gee, that's a bit wide. Might make that a bit smaller. And after is also 18. Phew, that's a big gap. All right. So let's go to format and go to paragraph. And it says keep with next because I want my image and the caption to stick together. I don't ever want my image separated from my caption, which is highly annoying. So in my image actual style, I say keep with next. Now I go to indents and spacing and I think 18's too much. So I might make that 12. I click on the down arrow and I might make that 12. Guess what? I've made it single again so that I've got good control over my before and after. Excellent control because like I said, the spacing with single is 0. So I can control it to 12. One hint, big hint, never type in this number here without putting in the PT. Because there are so many ways in which typographers make this width. They could use points, they could use lines, they could use pixels, they could use, the list goes on. If you don't put PT in there, it can say, I think I'm going to choose lines. And then instead of having a 12-point gap, you'll end up with 2.4 lines, which is the default mistake. So please, people, remember, always put in the PT. It's very important. Like if you want to type in 3, because this increments by 6 points. You can see that it goes from 0 to 6 to 12 to 18. So I want that at 12 now, and I'm happy to do that. If you want 12, just click on the arrows. But if you want something else, just select the number carefully and replace it like that. All right, so I'm going to click on OK now. And when I have a look in here, I can see that my before and after has been set. I click on OK and my picture nudges up a little bit. All right, that setting is up to you and how you want to modify this.